let me see. Where are we at? Okay, we're about here. Sorry, I'm just getting my slides ready to roll. Yeah, we did swim lanes. That's right. We were going to wrap activity. No, but it's been a week. It's tomorrow is a week since I had my segundo vaccine shot. So in 8 days, I'm going to be immortal. That's just amazing. Or the closest, you know what I mean, as close as I need to get to it. Um, hmm. Eric is already negotiating.
That
Isn't that one of
oh
the, what's that?
oh, I was gonna say that reminded me of a really silly video I saw where it was like a skit where a person got all five of the shots and was like fighting the doctor and stuff because they became invincible. And it kind of made me
Like when they had like all five
think of
vaccination
that.
shots?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. Or the community bit where uh I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but there's like an older guy who's part of their group, who's like his shtick is being crazy and old, and uh, like he
That's
steals all the flu shots from the kindergarten in order to take them all and become immortal, which is makes for it's
what's the show?
community. I
Community.
don't know
Do I know
that's one I
this?
highly recommend at least the
Can
first half of.
would you mind
I don't
dropping
know.
the
I
link,
felt
Sam?
like, oh yeah, I can try and find that.
No, go ahead. I cut you off. You were talking about community.
Oh, I was gonna say that if people haven't seen it, it's very funny, and since you're involved in university, on any like I'm sure you would get a massive kick out of it because the premise of the show is about this really scummy lawyer who is very good at like talking to people and he's just sort of a shady dealer, and he didn't ever actually get a law degree,
Oh,
and so now
nice.
like he has to go and just get a pre-law degree from a community college in order to get back to it, and then he meets like a study group, and just wild shenanigans happen, and it's very fun. But uh,
That's
I'll
awesome.
I'll look for the kindergarten flu shots
Yeah, that'd be great.
video, the
Drop. I
clip.
think we'd probably all really appreciate it. It actually reminds me a little bit of there was a movie. They made a movie out of it, but it was a book called Catch Me If You Can. Um, and they made a movie out of it with Tom Hanks and Leo DiCaprio. Anyway, the guy, just a really crazy smart guy. What's his name? What's his name? I'm looking over on my shelf like I have the book staring at me, but I don't think I do. I think it's somewhere else.
Frank something.
Frank, you're right. You're right. It is Frank. But dude, at some point, he literally he started working for some law firm because he was pathological, you know. So he'd like tell him whatever, tell him he's a lawyer or whatever, and then or tell him he's a airline pilot or whatever. But in the case of the lawyer thing, he actually at some point, you know, there was some point where they needed like a copy of his. He had to be able to, you know, pass the bar exam, and they actually started working with him to get him to pass the bar. And Abagnale is the guy's last name, Frank Abagnale. I just popped it into my head. Double check it. But anyway, and then they actually started working with him, and he actually sat for the bar, and you had to. He forged the law school diploma, so he hadn't actually gone to law school, but he went ahead and sat for the bar, failed it, of course, sat for it again, failed it again, but he was learning all the while. On the third go, if my memory serves me, he passed the bar and was licensed in, I can't remember which state at that point, Illinois or something. Um, you know, was licensed to practice law. I mean, once they find out his diploma was forged, that would have been the end of that. But he actually did pass the bar exam, you know. So anyway, that's a little psychotic. But anyway, yeah, thanks for that. I was going to say that old people being crazy is maybe not a shtick Maybe it's just some realities in some circles. And then I was also going to say Eric is already in the bargaining phase of the what is it? The grief pattern. What is it? It's the what is it? What's the name of it?
It,
I'm
the
a state.
denial, acceptance,
Yeah,
bargaining,
yeah, exactly. What
depression,
are they? It's the
or
stages
sorry,
of.
denial, uh, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Yeah,
But stages. It's what is it? Stages of something.
grief.
Grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Eric's at right now. He's already bargaining. By the way, what I have done now, I don't know what we're going to do yet when it comes exam time. I don't think any of us have really the gut for it at this point, but we'll figure something out. But I have done this before, where I have handed out like custom exams. Um, I'll do something that's a little less stressful than that even here. We'll figure something out. But with the what I would do is have like a custom exam, and it kind of goes, here's your percentage in the class. Here's the score you need to get on this final in order to get, like, let's say, you got a B. Here's the score you need to get on this final in order to get a B plus. Here's the score you would need to do, to get an A minus, whatever that thing was. It would just lay it out for them. And then it would be, you can take the exam and just like take your chances. Um, or you can sign here and take the B. You can take the grade without, with no bump. And usually about 90% would take the deal at BYU. Anyway, I suspect, I don't know, I think those numbers would probably hold at UVU. Maybe a little higher, maybe slightly higher. I don't know, maybe the same. I don't know that there would have. That's a high number. That's a surprisingly high number.
I mean, we
Yeah,
can take a vote, but I would vote yes. I would take the deal.
most of us would take the deal, right? If we have, it just depends on a lot of factors. Like if you really need the A minus for some for some scholarship or something, you got to you're trying to go to grad school or something. Yeah, and then I could see it. Anyway, all
Well,
righty.
another thing is you might be balancing, several classes. So you might say, "Oh, I can sacrifice getting a bad grade in this if I don't have to study
That's
for an
right.
exam. I can study for this other one."
That's exactly right. I'll take my B over here. A B is not a bad grade, but you know what I mean. I'll take my B over here because that'll allow me to pass that other class. If I try to get this thing up to an B plus, then maybe I don't pass the other class or whatever. Yeah, it's optimization. It's a utility function that you have to create on the fly. Okay, alrighty. Well, hey, today's what, Wednesday? Yeah, that's right. That's right, because it's 8 days until I'm immortal, um, and turn into the old guy who steals all the vaccinations. Um, what I want to do today is wrap up activity diagrams, but we'll wrap up the slides. But at the end of the sort of the UML, there's like a remaining few UML slides. I think literally like 4 or 5, 3, 5. There's like 5 more UML slides, couple discussion slides, and then there's like this interesting exercise. But when we get to the exercise part, you got to be engaged. Okay, don't go dark on me. We're almost out of this thing. We're getting out of this thing together. Um, I do want to understand the answer to the meme at the top. If that's a pair of scissors, it's a little bit like and I don't even know the answer, honestly. I think I know the answer. What's the plural of series, right? Like, I like some of the plural of series on Netflix. It's just series, right? I like some of the series. No, no. Sorry, Sam. I don't think that does it. I mean, it's bold, and I give you some style points, but I don't think that's actually it because I think that would be like possessor or something. Um, Alrighty, yeah, man. Rick, true or false? Would you like to pass the class? You would like to pass the. Uh, you're suggesting that would be the custom exam? Is there more to that, Rick? Oh, that's the whole exam. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Because you understand, you walk out of finals, we got 28th, right, is the last day of the class, and we go like 29th is reading day, prep day, whatever they call it. Then it kicks in with like Friday, Saturday, Monday, and it's finals week. And my grades are due on like the 4th of May. Now that's great because I want to get them the heck off my plate. But you walk out of finals and you're like wah 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 wah. But I'm just saying that professors are also motivated to keep that load down, down the stretch, if at all possible, for all the obvious reasons. Because we, it turns out, are also human, like you. We are also humans. We're a different life form. We're a different kind of human, but we are human. We are humanoid. Okay, ready? Ready to do this? Okay. By the way, anybody going to summer school? I mean, taking classes in the summer.
I was a little bit upset that they only offered one course that applies to seniors for CS.
Really? Really? But
For me, anyway.
you want the summer
Last
off.
summer, I didn't have anything that I could take over the summer.
Wow.
Granted, I'm graduating this semester, so
Yeah. Well, it turns out that A, I have nothing to do with any of that, but B, wow. But also C, you want the summer off. Man, when I was a student, all the way through undergrad, grad school, and there was a point somewhere in my, I went to school for freaking ever, right? Like 11 or 12 years of college. Um, but there was a point at which I was just like, it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters. The clock is my friend. I'm going to get old, whether I finish my degree or not. I'm going to finish my degree pretty soon. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. But where I was just like flat out, I don't go to school in the summer. I play golf, try to have some time with my family, try to take a vacation, try to reset, detox. Because man, you try to roll that. I'm sure some of you have done that, and then the summer when comes at you twice as fast. Man, that's just brutal. For me, no, not a thing. Okay, alrighty, let's do it. We get into a couple of we're talking about activity diagrams. Hard segue here. There's no segue. We're just dropping straight in. It's jarring. My own body feels repulsed by just dropping straight in. The whole idea is that with an activity diagram, like like we talked about these, or some of the other ones, right? That you can have events that come into the system, a little bit like receiving an order. And these signals, that we call them signals in UML, they can come from outside the system, and they can basically create a trigger. So that's a time signal. Why, I guess, hourglass? Hourglass? It's my best guess on what that's trying to be. But 2 hours before my flight, I pack my bags. I think you're probably doing that wrong. Then there's a signal. So this is a trigger that causes a signal to, it's like an interrupt driven thing. And then this is one where your system accepts a signal when it's generated. So when the taxi has arrived, your taxi arrives signal receives it. So you're like waiting on that one. You're not, I don't know. To me, that's, I don't know, semantics. But you understand that when you've got something that's going to be describing movement, like the dynamic behavior of a system, you've got to have the ability to say, then something happens. And that kind of moves the system forward. That's all. That's when you got a system that originates outside. And then here's when you got a system that originates on the inside of the system and can be sent, elsewhere. Receive an itinerary. There's the send signal, send an itinerary. And the truth is that when we get into this stuff here, the signals, honestly, in UML, I don't feel super crazy fluent, if that makes sense, at that. I mean, you know, I have on occasion, you know, I've had occasion to dive into it for one reason or another. I don't use it. I don't hang on to it. Just be aware of the idea that the ability to trigger signals, you know, timing functions, you know, accepting signals, generating signals. See the sort of the open arrow, you know, face on the sender, and then a similar. It's sort of convex on the send itinerary, and then a concave on the itinerary confirmed. That's meant to just sort of suggest direction and reception, right? That's all. You can imagine situations where you've got, you know, timings, just like you've got 48 hours, you know, to cancel your itinerary or things of that sort, right? Where the timing would become important. And then the other one, and I think this is, anyway, we're pretty close. We're going to talk about expansion regions and joins, okay? So there's just 3 more slides on the UML stuff. It's a little bit like iteration or concurrency, where I've got this list of topics here in this particular example, and there's a keyword which is just this is concurrent. And what's going to happen is I'm going to choose a topic and write an article, review the article, whatever these things are relating to the topic, and then, you know, pop it out the newsletter. But there's like 5. It's a little bit almost like, it's kind of like iteration, but it's really more like concurrently, like spin out as many threads as there are topics for this issue of whatever, right? Spin them out. Each one then has to get built. They're running in concurrency. Then there's a point at which they're going to all come back together and we're going to have a newsletter. That's the idea. Okay. And I don't want to belabor these too much. They're really handy in certain circumstances when you're trying to describe something like that. This one here with the little dashes, this expansion region, right? You think of it as happening a bunch of things concurrently. This one, what is this one? Oh, this flow final is simply a destination, a kind of an ending point, but it's only a point that ends the instance, not the entire behavior. Right? Because you went concurrent, right? Let's go 5 concurrencies, right? One of them can stop or hit this flow final, right? This sort of like a sink, they sometimes call it in directed graphs, right? There's like source and there's a sink. You know, but the others might continue on to do something. That's all.
So does this mean that we can choose several topics at the same time before we write the article, is what it's saying?
The way that I read this was that this writing an article and reviewing an article was per topic. Like this thing almost goes ding, 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 you know, like Doctor Strange in, I watched that recent, what did I watch? Infinity War. There's a scene where Doctor Strange replicates himself about 1,000 times. But Thanos, who took all the vaccines apparently and became immortal and all powerful. No, anyway, that was my impression, Blake, is that it's like for each topic, this thing like replicates itself and it happens concurrently, as opposed to we're going to iterate and do, you know, for each topic, do this thing. That's the way I read it. Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, I guess. Maybe it's meaning that you choose a topic and then you could be writing several articles about the topic at the same time or something.
Oh, in other words, that kind of concurrency. Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. You know, and it's one of those things where, okay, like confession time. You know, if I cared in the nth degree of my soul, I would probably know this, but I obviously don't care in the nth degree of my soul. So true confession time. I also realized that I did not drop the link into the chat. Let me do that real quick before I forget. Voila. But my take is that it's concurrency on the list of topics. I will bet you pizza at Nico's. Okay. That's my bet. I'm going to stick to it. Okay. And then finally, this notion of a joining of the specification, kind of a Boolean expression with a little spec. So you got to select your drink, you got to insert a coin. Now, my problem with this example is that most of the time you can't select your drink before you've inserted a coin. So there's actually a temporal dependency as opposed to two logical things that just happen to show up at the same time, right? But it's still just trying to be a placeholder, but I still think you got to be able to come up with better examples. But basically, when these two things have happened, then we can dispense the drink. Okay. A little bit of philosophical musing down the stretch, and then I think you'll find this exercise kind of interesting. Things that are good about activity diagrams, parallelism. They don't usually use them, even that notwithstanding, they don't usually use them for concurrent systems. I don't know that of myself. I know that that's Fowler's assertion. As for me, I don't know from hands-on. It's most useful when you think about it from a workflow environment. In fact, every time I see activity diagrams, I just keep thinking that these are kind of like high-powered PERT charts, right? Do you get PERT charts anywhere in the curriculum? Software engineering, maybe project management?
Yeah, we covered in software
Yeah.
engineering.
By the way, that's not made up crap. That's like really valuable. PERT charts and Gantt charts are actually, when I've been a professional manager in a software, company, and sometimes even just managing my own, professional world, I've made a lot of use of PERT charts and Gantt charts over the years. So it's really not made up crap. But you see the correlation, right, between these activity diagrams, but the difference being that the activity diagrams are trying to model the behavior of the system that instructs you about how the system works. Whereas obviously PERT charts and Gantt charts are meant to try to do resource management, critical path analysis, dependency analysis for real projects that involve real people. So that's a thing. Here's a definition of workflow that I like. The sequence of industrial, administrative, or other processes through which a piece of work passes from initiation to completion. I like that definition of workflow. And then remember that not everything looks like workflow, so it's not going to be the kind of thing you're going to use for everything, right? It's not going to happen. And remember, we only have like one more topic on the lectures. What is it? Oh, communication diagrams. Yeah. Actually, let me see something real quick. Oh, you know what? I want to see something. Oh, yeah. I have this other lecture that I do want to dump on you that I call Patterns of Leadership. It's just a little more high level, more kind of organizational. And the communication diagrams, I'm just checking. Yeah, it's really short. It's really, really short. There's like, 4 content slides. So it's not a big thing. But we're probably, a day, something. As we have said over and over and over again, I really hope this has penetrated into your hearts and minds that you can nitpick UML and the design decisions they've made. And you know where I'm at on some of those. Some of you agree with me on those or disagree. Whatever. You can get it right, you can get it wrong. The value of any system that's trying to model lies in its representational power. All right? Its ability to represent what you're doing. If you can describe it, represent it, and then it's like, super clean to the, the user, the barrier to entry for the user to see it, right? And the barrier just kind of drops, boom, they're in. If you can do that, you have succeeded. And I don't care what syntax you use, unless there's some other external reason why that particular thing is. And we've talked a lot about that, right? Coding standards, the spec standards, government contracts, other reasons why you actually need to standardize. But barring that, just on the moment itself, the value is in its ability to represent what in the crap's going on. And every system of representation or modeling is always flawed. I mean, honestly, a really classic one is like written music, sheet music. There's just a lot of stuff that it's not really representable like that. And besides, it's kind of just arbitrary, You've got these just dots and lines, and yes, you can map to it in your head, but it's painful. That mapping is not like just suddenly intuitive. So the representational power is huge. And this is it. I'm just going to read it to you, and the thoughts it induces you to have about design, software engineering, every aspect of product creation and deployment. So anything that you can model is something that's going to cause you to think. And all of the things we do in design, everything, I don't care if it's inside the code, if it's architectural level, design pattern kind of level, idiomatic level, I don't care. Every single one of those, every valuable model, graphic representation, every one of those causes you to think valuable thoughts. And if it really, really doesn't, either you got to work on the thinking part, which is your job, or the model is maybe busted. Okay. And then when you really do understand what you're trying to do, then you put yourself into a position where you can start rolling your own. And like I've said, most of the I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of design diagrams, right, in my professional career. Most of them were on a whiteboard, only lived in the form of a photograph taken. Like, remember the one with all the Post-it notes, right? And that's most of what I've seen. And you take a picture when you're done to embody it, share that around to everybody, and never done a UML diagram professionally in 35 years in the industry. I've never done anything remotely like a UML diagram outside of a class assignment. But I'm not going to say those class assignments were wasted, because it caused me to think about design, and hence it was valuable. Okay? It's really narrow thinking, like I've talked about before, to be like, I never, we had to blah, 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 how there's calculus, and every one of these things is about. It's not about performing double integrals. It's about altering the way you think about the world. That is why we force you through calculus. That really is. So I don't expect you to ever use it per se. I don't expect you, honestly, to ever use UML per se. You might. I mean, it is a thing, but I think majority of software is not being built with UML. And it doesn't make anybody wrong about anything. It just means that, the concepts are still there. Balake.
So I'm starting a new job this summer, and I was thinking about that. I was like, man, going into this new job, like, I'm not going to understand anything about their system and the way it works and interacts with their system.
Correct.
So I was like, if they had something like UML, that would actually probably make it a lot easier.
Exactly.
But I also know they're a very informal company, so I doubt that they do.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, Blake. It's like, man, anytime you come into any new system, prepare to just be dumber than a board. I mean, you just got to know that's your starting spot. And what I've often done, I've sometimes gone into companies and done consulting, right? Like there was, a couple of companies where gone in and done like looking at their cloud infrastructure or their underlying architecture, and I've never seen their thing before. I've never, whatever. And what I've usually try to do is get a very big whiteboard, and I'm just going to start asking them questions. And where I'm going to start, right? You got to know where I'm going to start. It's going to be use case now, and it's not going to be. It's going to be okay. So what happens in this situation? What happens in that situation? Here's who's the customer. I mean, that's really who I'm going to start with. Who's the customer? Oh, the customer has a smartphone app. Are there any customers of your system that don't use a smartphone app? Oh, yeah, there's also a web interface. Okay. Is there any other app interface that's going to hit your server? Nope, that's it. Okay. Why are these users using it? What is it they're trying to do? Because you might just say, oh, why do I need to know all that? All I need to know is where's the traffic coming in, right? Because we had this client that I did, analysis and consulting with, where something happened. They released something, and all of a sudden, in like a 1 hour period, I don't know, 250,000 people just came online, and they were not ready to scale to that. They didn't have scalability. And it crashed everything, and they really wanted to, and their solution at that point was over provision everything, right? Because all in the cloud, right? So if I just over provision the crap out of everything, I'm never gonna crash. And now, but what else are you doing while you're over provisioning everything? Paying out the butt for you're way overspending, right? And so we literally did a thing where we rolled in and in a matter of, a couple of weeks, broke the system down and started looking at it, made recommendations on certain kinds of tuning. And, we saved them, if my memory serves me, we were saving them a month after we showed up. And only, it wasn't like we were full time for a month. We just did a couple of weeks worth of stuff that we were saving them $20,000 a month in their AWS bill. And we didn't know jack about the system showing up, right? But we started by drawing a big old picture on the big whiteboard about what is everything. Then once I understand what all the users are, I can now be like, where is that information stored? Database, boom, oh, what are the servers? What are the actual servers? What do they relate to? What do they correlate to? All of that should be reflected in what I see when I try to understand the usability of the system, right? So anyway, interesting war stories about stuff like that. But yeah, they didn't have anything. Same thing, Blake. They didn't have anything they could throw at us, right? But we just spent some number of days, But let's talk about. So what I did was I went out and I looked for people that had rolled their own sort of workflow diagrams. And workflow diagrams are interesting because um, a lot of systems lend themselves to workflow. And I've got half a dozen of these, okay? But there's a lot of systems, if you think about it, that look like workflow, right? Like invoice processing that we've been doing. There's a lot of things like that. Okay? What I want to do, let me throw it up. We've talked a lot about design. We've talked about Norman. We've talked a little bit. We talked about Alexander and the quality without a name. We've talked about shiny objects. We've talked a little bit about interface design. We've talked a lot about patterns. And we've talked a crap ton about UML, right? So I think that even though we've been pretty informal about the structure, the way we've gone around things, other than the do your weekly, thing on head first. The former, I can't call it the Skater Chick anymore because it's a prior edition. Skater Chick's been retired. For Nerd Lady, I don't know. Anyway, you've been through all that. Now what I want to do down the stretch here, show you some pictures. You tell me what you think. Give me your honest. Now, give me your honest thing. Now, here's the thing, though. Let me just say the first thing, because I know you can't read this. Okay, neither can I. All right, neither of us can read this. I can probably go find this graphic, but independent of that, I'm going to go find the graphic and try to give you a blown up version of that. Okay. But thoughts, go. Ready, go.
Well, if the text and colors were better, I think this could be pretty good.
Okay.
I appreciate having some sort of scheme as long as it makes sense. The fact that you can't read it, though, is kind of,
Yeah, let me.
I don't know. I really feel like light text with a light background overall is a little bit of a fail, but
I agree. I agree. I think there's a little fail going on there. I'm going to try
I
to
do
get you a
appreciate
better.
the idea of. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to try to. I've got a copy, but I don't know if this is going to pixelate badly. You know what I mean? If that's any better, well, that's a little better. But coming through Discord, I think this is not great. But we can do this. Let's do this so we can. And I think I cut you off. Didn't mean to. Let me just try to look at these. I'll try to walk through it a little bit as well. Okay, and we can.
What if you just paste your snip right into Discord?
Oh yeah, I can do that. Heck yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Then you can pull it up individually. Okay, hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, everybody can kind of just blow that up themselves. But I can also, try to, while we're doing that, right? Tickets/emails submitted by the customer. Support case is created and assigned. So this guy seems to be kind of a trigger, right? It's the initiation of the moment. Again, I'm not advocating any of these that I'm going to show you. I am not advocating them, for or against. I'm just throwing them out to get your honest reaction. Question, right? During standard business hours, I got the squirrely little yes and no. Alerts are sent. Yes, alerts are sent to the support team to respond. Alerts are sent to the on-call technician to respond if I'm business hours versus not. Is ticket assigned? Yes. Now this is, who was saying that before? Sam? The light on light is tough. Ticket is reviewed based on priority. Support team resolves issues. Was the issue resolved? Yes or no? Interestingly, if the issue was not resolved, it's just back to, there's no escalation. There's no fail safe for a support team fail. Ticket is closed. System sent a follow-up email. You go to end. Otherwise, ticket assigned. No. Reminder is sent. That's our whole thing.
I guess the other question there is, if there's a check on was the issue resolved, why is there a pointer that says it resolves the issue and pushes it out,
What do you mean? I'm not sure I'm catching your full drift.
So on the bottom right, little yellow
Right
square.
There. Yep.
So support team resolves issues.
Oh, right here.
So
yeah.
Resolve the issue. Is it resolved? Well, it should be. You just resolved it.
Yeah, your box said they resolved it. Yeah, so maybe that should say something like support team addresses issues. Also, it says support team resolves issues, but it is a single issue, unless it's a single ticket with multiple issues, I suppose. No, I totally agree. What do you think about, what about the color scheme?
I'm a little confused about the color scheme with the orange. It seems like there's just one orange one that's all by itself, and I don't know what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
significance of that is.
There's also only one red one.
So
You know,
I I like the idea of the color scheme, but this one doesn't seem to make hardly any sense. I can't really discern what
yeah,
they're going for. And red, orange, and yellow is typically like an escalation, right?
right,
Whereas
right.
it's getting more and more red, but they
Yeah.
start red and they end red and they go. So it doesn't seem like it's doing anything, and
Well,
it seems like they could pare down some of this stuff.
yeah. Let me talk and let's hold on the whole pair down for a second. Let's come back to that, okay, Sam? But just talking about the color, um, yeah, here's the thing. Now we talked a little bit, not as much as I want to, and in the glorious future, when I'm fully on top of my game, I'm going lotion on my hands here, by the way. That's what I'm doing. I'm not like evil scheming because I'm going to be immortal in 8 days. I am I just realized when I go late nighters, I don't throw lotion on. We live in a freaking desert. And then you get the little chappy thing where everything starts bleeding. You know this. Okay. No, we talked a little bit about Edward Tufte, right? Oh, so briefly. And I'd like to do more. Did we talk about Tufte? We had to have. There's no way for me to get out of this class without having talked about Tufte. It's like a law. Did I succeed?
I don't recall, but my brain is gone.
Well, mine too.
So
This is the problem. Uh, anyway, Edward Tufte wrote four great, glorious books, and the first one with the most impactful book in my life with the boringest title. Okay? It was called The Visual Display of Quantitative Information. Oh dear, be still my beating heart. The visual display of quantitative information. Oh dear me, right? I mean, it's like, it sounds really horrible. And then it is just this most amazing and beautiful and really profound book, and really just tremendous. Anyway, Tufte, he talks about, oh, let's do an improv Tufte lecture since I may have failed previously. But Tufte, he talks about the fact that it's common when people think about graphics that they think about, like, okay, how many pixels is it going to take me to represent some data, right? I've got like pixels per information. How many pixels to convey this information, right? And Tufte kind of flipped it and he said, if you're doing it right, you can actually think of information per pixel, that a single pixel, or at least the notion of a density measured in information per pixel. And there should be a lot of information per pixel. Now, maybe it's not like, intuitively, you're like, wait, how could I have 10 chunks of information encoded in a single pixel? Right? Well, what do you think? What are the characteristics of pixels? Let's just say in 2 pixels. Well, let's talk about 1 pixel. What are the characteristics of a pixel?
well, it has the RGB value.
It has color, right?
Yeah,
What else does it have?
it has the size.
A which? A
Well,
size?
I guess it's system
Based
dependent,
upon,
but
yeah, system dependent. Sure. So let's ignore that because it's just a dot. What else does it have?
Position on the screen.
Yeah, it's got a location, right? So you already have a color and a location, right? Okay, now what about if you say there are 2 pixels? Now what do you have? Each of them has a color, each of them has a location, but what else do you now bring into bear?
relative color and relative
That's
position.
right, relative color and relative position, and things like empty space, null space, right? Gaps. Like if I took this whole thing and squished everything together, same pixels, right? But if I squished it up, it would be bad. It would be, unreadable. If I stretched it out, right? If in fact, if I squoze it in, you could say, well, I'm using fewer pixels because the screen real estate got smaller, but comprehension, went to hell. So that's no good. But if I stretch it all out to make it, then it's like crazy that way. Right. The other thing that you have, and I can't remember, I think maybe Sam was when you were dealing with this issue of color, you said you expect, right? There are metaphors at play that we leverage. For example, we'll do things sometimes when we're doing, patent stuff and looking prior art search and things like that. We'll do what we call heat maps. Well, and then we'll just have them be like hot, medium, and mild. And, you know, and usually we'll do those green, yellow, red. What's the metaphor? It's a mixed metaphor in the sense of hot, medium, and mild, because green means go and yellow means caution and red means stop, right? Um, but there's still a notion of green is better, yellow is middle of the ground, and red is bad, right? The other thing you've got that this reflects is more of an actual, when you get into the red tones, the earth tones and the red tones, then you get into this domain of heat. If I show you a map of the United States or any country, it doesn't matter, any surface on Earth, any surface off Earth, it doesn't matter, and I have flowing colors that go from dark blue to a lighter blue to a reddish and then to a deep red, what is it? If I don't say anything else, what is it?
It's a weather map or like a temperature.
Right? And hot is and red is hot and blue is cold. Because when you overheat, your face turns red, and when you chill out, your lips turn blue or whatever, right? It's a thing. So there are metaphors that exist in nature, and we borrow those metaphors. We piggyback on those metaphors. For example, we have a metaphor here that says that motion starts at the top because gravity goes down. That you always expect to start at the top. If this entire graph had all the same pixels, and you simply just, I don't even know, right? Like maybe just mirrored it. You know what I mean? Just flipped the whole thing that way and then adjusted all the text, right? You'd have the exact same portrayal of the pixels, but what would you lose, right? It would be more confusing. You know that it would be more confusing because you don't expect to start at the bottom. In fact, if you flip this thing, think about it, right? You flip it and you suddenly had two dark red boxes. End was way up would be in the upper left if we did that, right? And then whatever that thing says, ticket, email, submitted, would be at the bottom. You would never intuitively expect to start down there and climb your way up. It would feel unnatural because we live in a world in which gravity works and in which there's potential energy and stuff runs downhill, right? So the reason you can get, information per pixel is because that same pixel, right? All these same pixels flipped. So the you know what I mean? The number, the density of pixels, literally the relationship, the colors, everything would be exactly the same. And this whole graphic would become almost worthless just by offending a metaphor that we understand, which is start at the top and you go down, right? Same way that in English, in Western languages, right, we start upper left when we're reading or writing, right? And then when you get to other, you get to Hebrew, you get to Arabic does the same thing, right? You start upper right and you go to the left, right? It's arbitrary at some level, like which one, like driving on the right side of the road, like we do, in America, or on the wrong side of the road, like they do in the UK, right? For example, I mean, it's arbitrary at some level, but at some point, suddenly it becomes your metaphor and you can leverage that. Okay. But so then I hope all that makes sense. And a little tufty interlude. If anybody's interested, seriously, that book, The Visual Display of Quantitative Information, get it, read it. cuddle it, caress it, take it, have a little nappy time with it. It is just one of the, I don't know, it's probably one of the top 10 most influential professional books in my entire life. Probably Tufty. And I met him, which was cool, and had a conversation with him. But independent of that, it's just really changed my life and the whole way I think about interface, actually. The way I think about design, in fact. Okay, back to what you were saying, Sam. Colors. Okay, I guess we're going hot, less hot, warm orange, light yellow. No, sorry, warm hot orange, cooler orange, banana orange, and then some empty diamonds. But one diamond looks like that burgundy outline, and the other diamond, I don't know whether that diamond, you know, I don't know. I don't know which color that outline is. It's one of the surrounding colors or not. Right? But there's the whole metaphor is you're hotter, and it's like we're really hot, and we're going down, and we're getting hot again, like that. But that's not it. It can't be it. That cannot be what they were going for. I think they were just going for look nice. The other thing, check it out. By the way, are these two oranges in the middle the same orange as this orange down here? I think they're different, but I do not actually know that for a fact.
I think it's an optical illusion
That they're different or that they're the same?
that they're different.
I think you're right. I think they actually are the same. And there's one way to tell. If I take this bad boy and bring it kind of closer, if I can, what's the best way to do that? Can I shrink it?
Can you crop it?
Well, I can crop it. Yeah. I'll just do the little croppy thing, and then blow it up. And then let me now shrink it just a little bit. So we got the color. I should have cropped it differently. I'm a dum-dum, hold tight. But you can still kind of go, okay, ish. Sorry, I'm going hard to the hoop right now. There we go. And we can at least use the bottom. There's no help because it's got the shadow. It's got the shadow. Thank you. Thank you, Mac. But I do think it seems the same anyway. I don't know, right? I can't tell. Anyway, but no, the colors don't seem to me to mean anything. And I just think that's problematic. Don't be sticking color if it doesn't mean anything, Because I look at that and I want it to mean something. And instead, it actually like scrambles. Does this do this for anybody else? It just kind of scrambles my head. I look at it and it scrambles my head. Here's another thing. Here's another one, by the way. It only shows up right here on this diamond, this decision-making diamond. Typically, we would run a decision out of a diamond by going out the one side and then out the other side. This one goes out together, then goes swooshy split. Yes, no. But do you see how metaphorically it doesn't, to the eye, it doesn't say split. It doesn't say either or to the eye. It says go out and then duplicate yourself like a circuit, right? If a wire comes out of a circuit and that wire splits, you assume that if there's, voltage, right, in that, that if there's current in that wire, that the current is going to both places, right? So that to me doesn't have the split left, right. It doesn't intuitively say decision. You have to think about it. So back to Norman's principles, because here's the deal with the metaphor again, back to Tufty. When the metaphor assists you, that's an example of the Norman principle and related to the Philip Armour principle, where um, the tool or the mechanism or the instrument or the doorknob, whatever, the door teaches you about its usage by using natural metaphors. For example, if I come up to a door, right, and there's a flat metal panel, there's literally no way to grab it. My only option is to push. But if I have a door I need to push and it has a handle that begs me to pull, I've just mixed my metaphor, right? Same idea. Okay. I feel like, typographically, it's just tough. To me, the ratio of the size of the boxes and the way the text is oriented is a problem. It's just I have to work too hard to read it. And then when I glance back at it, it doesn't just call out to me. You know what I mean? It doesn't just go, oh yeah, reminder. I have to stop and go, wait, which one was no? Which one was yes? You know? Oh, by the way, we do have the yes, no here on these two boxes. We do have, there's no, there's yes, as opposed to the squiggly split. Okay, ready for the next one? We got you because we're running out of time. But I don't know. Interesting though, right? To just like look at somebody else's cut on their system and its workflow. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who built it. But these are all, as far as I could tell, like live examples, real examples. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Go. Ready, go. Do I need to make a copy of this again? Should I screenshot this thing?
We can read a lot of the bigger print, but some of the smaller print we can't read.
Yeah, let me see if it even matters. I don't even know that it does. For example, I'll give you an example and maybe it'll help and we don't have to worry about it. Like right over here, stage 4, solubility. I mean, 'cause I don't know what the crap this is talking about anyway. Solubility and PAT calibration. Then it says quantified phase diagram. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, right? I don't know what any of this is. Detailed temperature dependence and system stability. Robust, consistent process with control of particle attributes. You know what I mean? Let's just assume all the fine print says blah, blah, blah. And then down here where it says key, do you see where it says key? It goes decision 1, decision 2, 3, 4 through 6. Like, for example, it goes key, decision 1, solvents with suitable properties for cooling crystallization, question mark. And then I guess I can go look around and there's decision 1. So this appears to be like a footnote that goes to decision 1. And this is like a footnote that goes to decision 2. And ignoring whether any of us knows about seated cooling crystallization workflow. Because I actually know, to my credit, I want to just say that I know what all 4 of those words mean. Okay, so there. I suspect you do too. And I have no friggin' idea what the global thing's about. Okay, what do you think? What do you think? Go. I have a lot of thoughts on this one, but I want you to go first.
I guess I do like that at least that there's some consistency with the format of decisions and states,
Okay.
which they call states here.
All right, Blake, I'll buy that. I got to start by saying, 10 compliments before we rip it a new one. Sam, I think you started to say something.
It's very busy.
It is
and
very
it's
busy.
overwhelming to look.
Yeah, because I think, like, for example, the decision, just going for some of the busyness, because I think so I agree with what you said, Blake. And then I think with what Sam said about busyness, that the busyness overtakes the consistency. For example, decision 2 goes way the heck down here, almost hits 3 before it's like, I'm going to 3. It's like, no, hard right. Then it's going, oh, and then I'm almost hitting 4. And then I'm like joining the no from 4. Yeah. Then I'm beelining back to 1. Do I really need to join the no from 4? Is this like circuit flow? Is this, you know what I mean? Do I really need to do it? Because all of a sudden, the fact that if 2 fails somehow, that criteria doesn't happen, that I need to go back to 1 is obscured by the fact that I'm all over 3 and 4, which have nothing to do, with any, right, with any of this. What other things jump out at you? And by the way,
We do
yeah,
have a little diamond key that doesn't seem to be really attached to anything.
nope, that's right. It's like a footnote to all 6 of the decisions. So that's a note about that decision. That's a note about
I
that
see.
decision.
It's like a meta thing, so it's talking about the flow.
Like a legend or a footnote or yeah. But that also means that every time you're in the moment where the graphic context is there, right there, you're focused on it. Then you've got to like break that flow, drop back down, try to remember again what that decision was, keep that in your head, go back to the graphic, and it's forcing you as the user to connect those dots in your head. And the more and more of that you do, it's what I usually refer to as like trying to like admire the Grand Canyon by looking through a straw. You can do it. Like, you're planning your hike of the Grand Canyon. You're going to hike down the Grand Canyon, which I'd love to do sometime, right? And you're looking through the straw, and then you're like, okay, I see that little red rock. Okay, another red rock, another one, right? And then the burden is back on you to piece it all together in your head, to knit it all together in your head, right? And if you can't ever just open your eyes and see the whole thing, you're forever, the cognitive load is so high. And a lot of interfaces, a lot of interfaces have this effect that they be, and this is also, remember, man, it all comes back to use cases. I was not blowing smoke when I was talking about the essential nature of use cases, because why do you get something like that? Why is that a thing? And the answer is because the person who built this graphic had it all right here, and they can't, it's a curse of knowledge, right? It's literally all the crap we've been talking about. You're just like, Dr. K, blah, 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 curse of knowledge, blah. No, it really is true. And the curse of knowledge is what gets in the way of use case design. The empathy for what it looks like to come at this without that knowledge. And you wind up just saying things because you can't remind yourself, of, of what it's like to not know this, right? So the person building this knows what all those are, but now the next, person who's trying to leverage it, it's like there's a cognitive load. And remember, we talked about all these principles. This is just converging it. Remember, when there's confusion in the mind of the customer, the answer is, I'll give you a hint. It's in red on this graphic. Right? We talked about this. When there's confusion in the mind of the customer or the user or whatever, if there's confusion, the answer is no. There has to be clarity for the answer to be yes. With app design, for example, or interface design of any type, where there's confusion, that means disengagement. The user is going to stop. What this means is that the engagement with this graphic is going to stop. A user is going to start in, and they're going to and the cognitive burden is going to just, they're going to feel like, it's not going to ease their transition into a mental model of everything that's going on, right? Let's hit a couple other things. And by the way, as you know, or as if you don't know, you strongly suspect, I don't care if we get through all 6 of these today. This discussion, do you see how this is like synthesizing everything that we've talked about? Also, at some level, you can kind of go, hey, maybe UML is not so bad. I mean, they had to make some unifying decisions, but maybe not so bad. Okay, what else? What else? Hit me. What else you got? And by the way, I know that some of you are more introverted. Some of you are more comfortable dropping, text chat. And that's great. That's fine. Some of you are more extroverted or more verbal, and it's more comfortable to jump on the voice chat. But there's some of you that are maybe you're lurking and maybe you're getting a lot out of it, or maybe you're sound asleep. I don't know, but I just want to make sure that we're mixing it up as well and getting some feedback, comments from everybody. We're so small as a class, and really, truly, the comments that get made, I really, really love them. But I'd say there's about half the class that regularly will drop a comment either verbally or in the chat. And I just would want to encourage, I'm not going to force you, but I'd like to encourage the other half to also bring it on, baby. Turn it on, bring it online, communicate. Okay, having said that, Blake or Sam or Rick, who's contributed so far? Big Steve and Eric and the usual suspects. But no, if you haven't, again, I know it's harder for some of you, okay, than others. I really do get that. But anyway, what do you think? What else? What else is nagging at you here? And then, by the way, and I don't want to discourage, I know so far I think Sam and Blake have been most of the verbal comments, and then there've been some other text comments. So I also don't want to discourage you, Blake and Sam, from jumping in because that's also okay, and it's all good. What do you think?
Yeah, similar to the last one, I don't like, we don't get anything from this color, it seems, because each color is totally different.
Yeah.
Another thing is these numbers, it's a little bit, I suppose it could be a little weird going stage 1, stage 2, decision 1, stage 3, decision 2. Like the numbers are weird. It might be nicer if the decisions were just like a short name of a short description of what it is rather than decision 1.
Yeah, no, I really like that comment. And if you look at it, if you just like look for the numbers, right? Because you ever notice how our minds, not strictly, not exclusively, but we do tend to like we can pick numbers. If you show me a bunch of letters and there's a number in there, we'll kind of pick it out, right? I mean, and obviously that's not like perfect and seamless, but if you scan for the numbers, you're gonna go right. I'm just kind of like going 1, 2, 1, 3, 2. The arrows kind of nudge me that way. 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, 5, 7, 6. Right, and those numbers are jacking me up. The other thing is when I get to the diamonds, it's like stage 1, stage 2, decision 1. It's like stage 3, decision 2, and the volume. I mean, I just feel like the volume is all over the map. And then go, that last one right here, right? It should be go. If you ever watch some soccer, watch some football. I mean, I don't. There's so much of that that's sort of messed up. And somebody mentioned all the colors. Every single color is different. Now, but and here's the problem. You're like, well, why do I care? And the reason that I care is that the brain wants to find a pattern. Okay, your brain is a pattern solving machine. Mitch, thanks for jumping in. Mitch said, pretty sure red's the first color. Yes. Yeah. Except that the red and the green are almost pastelish. You know what I mean? So they want to fade a little bit, but the red does kind of jump out at you, and it competes with the darker blue and the multicolors, right? It kind of competes. I feel like I'm just drawn to the no paths. Can never ever read that. Can never ever leave that big red loop. Yeah, no, it's true. It's really true. When you see all the colors, and by the way, including right here, right? These colors, by the way, I didn't even say this, but I forgot. 3, 6, there are 9 boxes that are filled with color on this graphic. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors out of 9 boxes. Okay, here there are 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, there's 7 stages and 7 colors. It's a mess. It's a mess. What about this? Oh, here's what I wanted to say. Our brains like to find patterns. It's what we do. We're about out of time. Right? You've done this exercise as a child, perhaps as an adult. You lay on the grass in the summer because when you're a child, this is what you do. And you look up at the clouds, right? And what do you see? What do you see in the clouds? And when you get ancient like me, you're just like, yeah, kid, seeing a million clouds, yeah, a lot of rabbits in the sky, like, yeah, don't bother me. But when you're little, I remember being little and traveling someplace and then like having a competition with one of my siblings where we were just like looking at clouds and then trying to, see what we saw and then pointing it out to the other one, like, okay, I see a dragon and it's doing right. Have we all done this? That's not just me, right? You understand there's no dragon in that cloud, but your brain sees a dragon because it recognizes the pattern of a dragon and it's randomly there in the cloud. It's crazy, but your brain sees the pattern. Okay. Therefore, if there is some patternish stuff, you dang well better, like, if you have that and your brain recognizes the pattern of a heat map and there's no heat map, you just hard juked the brain. Or right here, your brain is trying desperately to make sense of 7 boxes with 7 colors in the middle of a lot of other noise. And guess what it can't do? Make sense of 7 colors in 7 boxes competing with, they can't. And when you look at this, when whoever was at first said this seems really busy, well, the reason it's busy, that statement about the busyness of a graph is actually a statement about the behavior of your brain, not of the physical graphics of the map, of the graphic. Do you see what I mean? You feel like it's busy because your brain goes into hyperdrive busy mode trying to make frickin' sense out of it, but it can't. So it starts to overheat. Your brain just starts to go, and it feels busy to your brain. And that's your emotion, busy, like, ooh, okay, woo. And every time you even dive in, you're like slowed because the thing repels you. This is not the quality without a name. Okay. And then the last thing I want to say is, okay, loopy loop. Here we got a loop. Okay, no, consider alternatives. Whoa. These are alternate fail spots. Why, like quiet little shadow grayish, it's like consider alternatives. You're like, yeah, but are we still in the graph or not? It's like, just consider alternatives, or right, or you're there a decision for, and all of a sudden it's just like, crystallize your characteristics. You're like, whoa, we can take inputs. Wait, do they all have inputs? Do none of them have inputs? If that, is 4 the only one that has inputs? You know what I'm saying? Ah, I need a break. I mean, I feel like I need a break after this. Anybody else? Let me see. Rick, my brain wants to turn off right when I'm like, yeah, no, exactly right. And when you're forced into it, your brain repels you and you have to go force of will. Well, guess what? Your job, last thought, we're going to be done. Your brain, what you want to do when you're trying to communicate to the brain of another human is you want to lower the barrier to entry, right? If I have to stop and go, oh, pull, jigga, jigga, jigga. Oh, I got to push this pull handle. Oh, right? I want to lower the barrier. I see the thing, go on through. I want to lower the barrier cognitively. And every time I have to make the user think all kind of crap, I have done the wrong thing. I have failed in my quest. Okay. I really do have a headache from this graphic. I really do. And I was short night on sleep, but I do have a bit of a headache from this. So I want to just like apologize. In fact, let me just get rid of this because it's just so headache inducing. Oh, oh man. But hey, we're not done yet. Let's come back on Monday and we'll do some more. We'll wrap the other ones up on Monday. Is this interesting? I think it is. Maybe kind of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of, in some ways, I think it's more practical because, well, I don't know about more practical, but practical because this is the kind of thing you will sometimes have to read and deal with, and just not only that, but
produce.
And produce, and not only that, but even computer science not related stuff. Like if you're part of an organization, you have to. At some point, you may end up designing something like this, or finding ways to communicate to other people, and just realizing how many of them are absolute eyesores is pretty valuable.
That's right. And just to understand that this is an iterative process that takes a crap ton of work to get it right. Like if I said, okay, let's make this better, it would be a lot of work, and I think that there's a lot of reasons why you see a lot of this kind of eyesore. But when you do nail it, whether you're making a professional presentation or whatever it happens to be, when you nail it, you open doors for yourself. You really do. Everybody's emotions go better. Their brain chemistry gets happier, right? Hence, the minimum viable product is dopamine, right? As kind of a book title. It's that idea. Your goal is to release some brain chemicals, not just to like throw it over the wall and the information's there and they can struggle through it. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to cut it loose. I just got 2 calls from people that think I'm out of class, but I'm not, but I will be in a minute. So have a fabulous rest of week. Appreciate that, Rick. I agree. I think the practical hands-on is worth a lot. All right, I'm out.